Hey everybody, welcome back in the shed. I'm Troy Shaw, and with me again is Dave Griffiths. How's it going, Dave?
It's going very well, Troy. How are you?
I'm doing great. Well, we are not in the shed today. We're at Cinema, great little barn lounge right off Lake Air Drive behind Captain Billy Whizbang. Always got great bands in here, non-smoking. I mean, this is the place where, when we go out, this is the place we go to see bands.
Yeah, we've spent a lot of money here.
We appreciate that.
Exactly.
We certainly appreciate that.
So let me introduce these two guys we got with us today. They've been a staple of the local music scene for 20 plus years. Their band is as popular as ever. They've got side projects going on all the time, tribute bands, I mean all kinds of stuff. And so let me introduce Brian Brown and Jeremy Moore of Sloppy Joe. How's it going, guys?
How's it going? What's up?
Hello, everyone.
All right, well, let's get down to it. So you guys have been, this year is the 20th anniversary of Sloppy Joe.
Yeah, it's crazy.
But you guys have played even before that together. How'd you guys meet?
That's a funny story. I love telling that story. A good friend of mine, dear friend of ours, Roy Lewis from Robinson. He and I were trying to put a band together, and he was a bass player. And, well, like most bass players, he was a frustrated guitar player. And so he comes and picks me up one day and says, "Hey, brother, I found us a guitar player. Get in. Let's go meet him." And I said, "Okay." So
how old were you at this time?
I was a wee 21, maybe. I was barely 21.
Okay.
Long hair, skinny.
Long hair, skinny, yeah.
I've seen pictures and videos.
Yeah, it was a long time ago. So he picks me up and we head out to China Spring, and he's not telling me much about the guy we're going to see. And I said, "Well, where'd you meet him?" He said, "I was in Holsey Music, and he's shredding on the guitar." And I went over and started talking to him. And I was like, "Wow, that's cool." So he plays a lot of the stuff we like at the time. It was hair metal time, it was late 80s. And so on the way out there, the closer we get, the more nervous he seems. And I said, what's the deal? He said, "Well, I need to tell you about this guy before we go out there." So I'm thinking, oh boy, what are we getting ourselves into? So I said, what's the deal? He said, "Well, he's what?" He said, he's gay, he's black, he's got one arm, he's missing fingers, he's what is it? What about it? He said, "No, none of that. He's 14." And I said, "He's what?" He said, "He's 14." I said, "Well, I would rather it have been any of the other options, because where in the hell are we going to play with a 14-year-old guitar player?" And he said, "Man, you got to hear him play." At that point, really, I was ready to turn around, because it was, we were just becoming adults and musicians, and especially at 21, you're finally able to get into bars and play at a legal age, So we head out to China Spring and pull into the driveway and are greeted at the door by his mother, who I always call Miss Cleaver, because she was the apron and the milk and cookies mom. And she greeted us with a smile and, some milk and cookies, and directed us to his bedroom. And we walk in, and there's Jeremy playing his guitar. He's got a pink Kramer. He's got a big poster. I think he's had some Steve Vai posters and he had some real cool stuff on his walls. And he looked 12. And so we start talking, and I'm not into this. This is a waste of my time because I'm cool. And Roy says, "Well, play a little bit for him, Jeremy." And the rest is history. He just starts shredding. And in my mind, I go, we could make this work. Because even at that age, Jeremy was just unbelievable.
Yeah.
Great guitar player.
So you didn't have any friends or any kind of a life?
No, that's how you get good. Like you were saying, if you could play guitar all day, you'd be good. I definitely had more chops back then than I do now, because that's all I did.
Yeah.
All day, every day. No social life whatsoever.
So Sloppy. So what was the first band?
Well, we didn't have a name, so it was Jeremy and myself and Roy, and first it was Nicky Nix, on drums,
right.
And I've always been a marketing guy, so we wanted to capitalize on his youth, so we called ourselves Child's Play. We thought that was pretty clever, and we got all the gigs that you could get as a rock band with a 14-year-old guitar player in the late 80s in Waco, which was house parties.
Rent
your own building, house parties, trailer house parties,
Play in somebody's living room.
high school gymnasium when the school functions.
Tabernacle.
The Tabernacle out in China Springs. So we had to put on our own shows a lot, and but I mean at the time we were doing what we were doing, and some of the places that we played would let Jeremy come in and play, even as 15, 16 years old. Let him come and play. They didn't really ask. He may have drank a beer or two underage. I don't know. Maybe.
I remember we played Bills one time back in the day, and they almost kicked me out before the gig because they caught me drinking.
Yeah. So,
but they let me stay because we were their entertainment.
And that was a good time. And the band almost broke up before it got its first gig because I started seeing Jeremy's sister real quickly after we started playing.
It was about 16. 17 at the time.
That's kind of the theme to all these In the Shed episodes, where that there's always somebody's sister involved, it seems like.
And the sister never lasts, but the musical relationship always lasts.
Exactly. But anyway, so we played around with that. We switched drummers a couple of times, and but we did that, but we did a lot of progressive stuff too. As the tide of music changed, we did too. We got into some prog rock, and we got into some of the and Primus. We did some cool stuff at the time because we actually ended up getting another bass player after Roy moved, and for a while we had. Our bass player was on the same level as Jeremy, so we were doing some Mr. Big, some Billy Sheehan stuff. We were doing, like I say, some Primus.
It helps to have a good bass player if you're playing Primus.
Yeah, we had. And
we got a really good keyboard player. We were doing Rush, and we were doing Boston Foreplay. And
we were doing some really cool stuff, man. So we've always challenged ourselves, and the audience, I guess, by going, hey, this is not Wild Thing or Born to Be Wild. This is some pretty progressive stuff.
So I guess when you guys grew up a little bit, and back when we were getting the band off the ground,
hold on. Nobody said that we've grown up. That's never once been mentioned or proven.
That's not always good.
Or proven.
Stay young at heart.
So we got a little bit older. That's what you're saying.
But did you have any aspirations of what it would take to get a paycheck for this thing?
I guess that kind of developed on its own. I've always been the business guy. I just surround myself with good musicians, and then I'll take care of the business part. And when you first start out, if anybody gets into music to make money, they're in the wrong business.
Right.
Kind of like teaching, I guess. So we played because we wanted to play, and we took any gig we could get. And during the late 80s, like I say, in Waco, Texas, if you didn't play country, you did not have a gig.
The only money gigs I had back then was moonlighting with country bands.
So that's another client calling. We'll get that gig in a minute. But so we just played and played as much as we could, played all the places that we could, tried to get as much as we could at the time. And I guess really until we formed Sloppy Joe, that's when I really started putting this thing together as a product, I guess you'd say. We'll start looking at what trends there were, what people were going out to see, what song lists were making money, and that's when we really branched out. Because we were Child's Play, we were was the Fringe right after that?
That's what I was trying to remember. What was in between those two? But leading up to the early Sloppy Joe, we had several different things.
You've heard of the Fringe? We were actually the originators of that. We were Lunatic Fringe. So it was me, Jeremy, Jace Peterson, and Blake Northern, and we were called Lunatic Fringe. And then we jumped out of that to get a more progressive band called Option Anxiety, played, like I said, The Promise and stuff. And then I guess after the two Lunatics left, they became just the Fringe and went on and put out some records and stuff. But really, we didn't do any writing at that point. Jeremy was dabbling in writing. I never had any musical training. And so for me, this has always just been a fun ride. Surround myself with good musicians and have fun playing the songs I love. And these guys had training and had aspirations to write and stuff. So Buddy Ludiker, our keyboard player, a friend of ours, worked at Halsey, and he calls me up one day and says, let's put a band together.
And I worked at Halsey's at the time.
Yeah. And he says, let's do some... Now, up until that point, we were metal or nothing. That was I didn't want to hear anything about Johnny Cash or anything.
Yeah.
Now, I secretly dug Michael Bolton. I know that's crazy, but it's a true story. I was a big fan of Michael
Well,
Bolton.
the hair. I mean,
Well, the hair, but the soul. I was a big fan of soul music.
Blue-eyed soul.
And so I dug that a lot. So Buddy hits me up and says, "Look, I know you like soul music, and I know you like. So let's do some funk. Let's do some '80s. Let's do some '70s disco and stuff." And this was right on the cusp of that whole what they call retro thing. I just did the air quotes. And so that's when we went out and went on a polyester and patent leather spending spree and shopping spree and formed Sloppy Joe as a product. Playing fun stuff that we wanted to, but knowing that we would be able to.
So like a show band.
A show band, yeah.
A variety show band.
Yeah.
You know.
And that was in 1995 in Mark Hustanik's garage out between McGregor and Waco, Hewitt. And Buddy on keys, sax, and guitar and vocals. Me on vocals, Jeremy on guitar. Mark Frank, great friend of ours, great bass player, on bass, and then Mark Hustanik on drums. And it was just a lot of fun. We did have a really good time. For me, I'll let Jeremy speak. I know I talk a lot. For me, it was great because I rediscovered a lot of this music and looked at it in a different perspective. Like I say, I was always a metalhead from 12 years old to, in my 20s. But when I went back and listened to some of the Motown stuff and some of the funk stuff and even some of the disco stuff, at the musical part of it, I was really blown away by how cool all that stuff was.
Yeah, I learned a lot from that. Playing all those different styles, that was the first time I'd done that. And been doing it ever since, but that makes you a much better musician when you can make your own amalgam of all those things.
Yeah, when you can branch out and do something a little different.
Sure.
It
makes you grow.
Exactly.
And all the 80s stuff we did. I wasn't just into the hair stuff. I always liked the Police, and I always liked, Simple Minds. I like Tears for Fears, a lot of the 80s
The Cars.
bands.
I mean,
the Cars.
Yeah, I love the Cars. Men
so
at
that-
Work, Jake Al's band.
Yeah, that's a lot of the stuff that we were doing, and a lot of that, and that all was guitar driven as
And
well.
you didn't see anybody else playing that stuff
No,
either.
nobody. Our first gig was at Scruffy Murphy's. Well, you know what? We did skip over Red Eye Gravy, and that was the transition from Child's Play.
Yeah, that
and,
might be your edit.
yeah. Well, not
No.
necessarily. I mean, what we did was there was a time period where it was after Child's Play, but before Lunatic Fringe, and we were kind of trying to figure out what we wanted to do musically as a project, and we were on vacation, the whole family, because I was married to the sister at this time.
Oh, it really panned out.
Yeah,
for you,
it
didn't it?
did. Well, sort of.
2 kids later.
Yeah, 2 kids later.
It's a long story.
So we're down in South Padre, and we still got 3 or 4 days to go, and we've got zero cash left for beer. And so Jeremy and I go hitting the bars and saying, "Hey, can we get up and play some songs for a tab?" And most of them said no, because they're all packed anyway. They don't need any entertainment. And so we found one bar, Black Marlin Lounge, our club. It said, "I tell you what, I'll give you guys a $50 tab, and that's it. And you play for tips." So we went back to the condo, dumped out my CD bag, which had about 20 CDs in it, and that's the biggest cram session I ever remember in our life. We learned everything that could even be molded into an acoustic version of a song. I think we learned 80% of STP's core.
Yeah, of course.
We learned a lot off of the Eric Clapton solo album, Alice in Chains, the Alice in Chains. So we probably learned crammed 20, 30 tunes in with what we kind of already knew.
But it was just you two.
Just us two.
Yeah.
We go back to the club. This is great. We go back to the club. We say, "Where's your PA?" And he says, "I don't have a PA. There's a number 26, your order is ready, microphone hanging from the ceiling." So Jeremy and I look like a couple of lovebirds because we're both singing into this hanging
Do
microphone.
like some Krakow speakers.
But you know what?
6x9s or
You know what?
some
The
shit.
place was packed, not because of us, and they dug it. We made probably 100, 150 in tips. We probably had a $150 bar tab, and
The rest is history.
the rest is
And
definitely.
you're still doing the same thing today on the side. I mean, you got your.
We really are.
Yeah,
Well, see, I worked at Chelsea Street Pub during this time, so when we came back, that was our first product. I'll say that. That was our first product. Came back, and Jeremy was working at Cracker Barrel, and Jeremy said, he comes home one day, and he's like, "Man, there's this nasty stuff at work called Red Eye Gravy." And I said, "What is that?" And he said, coffee and bacon grease mixed together, and it's gross. I said, well, what a cool name for an acoustic duo. So we called ourselves Red Eye Gravy. We put together a package of he and I at Chelsea Street Pub or wherever we played with a oriental rug, a wingback chair, a rocking chair, a little table in the middle with a little lamp on it. We actually had an American Gothic picture setting on it. And it was our living room setting because we always wanted to create you're just at our house with us and we're playing for you. And that probably helped both of us as musicians more than anything else because it was so stripped down. You had to get your timing got right, your harmonies got right, just everything really came together then. And I guess kind of marketing developed through that.
And that was about 94, 95, I'm assuming.
That was probably 89, 90, 91.
Okay.
Yeah, it was that long ago. Because
when that started, because I was still in high school.
Yeah. So from there, we enjoyed it. We were gigging a ton.
We did the whole Chelsea's tour kind of thing,
Yeah.
Yeah, that was fun.
Back when those were all open.
Because it was...
Yeah, I remember the Chelsea's here. I had first moved to Waco and went there for some reason. I don't remember why. But I remember seeing the Sloppy Joe poster. I don't know that Sloppy Joe ever played there. I don't think we ever played there. I saw it somewhere and I thought, Sloppy Joe?
Yeah.
That's an odd name for a band. How did that name come about? We know how Red Eye Gravy came about.
Right.
Well, I'm assuming you worked at a place that served Sloppy Joe.
I'll tell you how that came about.
I don't know why it's all food related, but
yeah, neither. We knew we were going to be 70s and 80s geared. We knew that we had the costumes, the apparel.
So an iconic meal from the 70s.
Well,
really
and also the bubble letter thing. Bubble letters were that time period.
Yeah.
And with the S's and the P's, I knew that it would look cool. But I think we all picked about 5 or 6 names and put them in a hat or whatever, or did the ranking. And it's really no hard...
Just rehearsing and doing a spitballing kind of thing,
Yeah.
Going through hundreds of names.
I know names are really hard to come up with.
And you always regret the one you come up with.
Yeah, of course.
I had a band for about 2 or 3 years before we ever had a name. People were like, "What do you call it?" I have no idea. We don't have a name.
Well, I'll tell you what worked for us. We picked the name. We started promoting our first show at Scruffy's, and literally within a week or two of that, Adam Sandler, was it Billy Madison?
It might have been just one of his solo CDs.
He sang that Sloppy Joe song.
The Sloppy Joe song. Well, we took that and ran with it. And we'd sing that at shows, just that portion, to get people to remember the name. So we were very fortunate that came about.
Well, Troy sent me that album you guys did, Planet Jake, a while back. And I got to say, I was really impressed with the diversity of the songs, and the production was great. How'd that come about? Where was it recorded? And expound.
Well, how did it come about? It was a different incarnation. It was a later incarnation of Sloppy Joe. At this time, Buddy quit, and he went on to play Townie, and we got John Kutz on drums. He had just moved to town and became the drum professor at MCC. Immediately, we knew he was a badass.
Right.
And first rehearsal with him, and Jesse and I had been friends for years, and
Jesse Fritz.
Yeah, we got Jesse into the band. Didn't work out with Mark. I don't remember what happened with all that, but anyway, we had this group of musicians with killer chops. Now they weren't on the. I guess they were on the CD. Buddy played drums on the CD.
Buddy was on the CD. Well, these guys, it was a push and pull. There was always kind of this, they wanted to play originals and felt like I didn't. And I did, but I also knew where the money was. So I was always the guy going, guys, if we give up any of these covers gigs and start playing originals, you're going to see a significant decrease in our income.
And that's basically all we did back then.
So that's all originals on that album?
We did two covers.
Yeah.
We did two tributes, I guess you'd say, because they were certainly different from the originals.
Exactly right.
But anyway, so Jeremy and Jesse had done some stuff together, and then they were all kind of in a riding pool. And
Jesse and I had done a project called Carbon. That was
Carbon,
a
yeah.
trio that I sang and played, and which David also did. David Zacek also did. When he had a studio above the old Lone Star Music.
Yeah.
down
Is that
the
where y'all
road.
recorded this CD? No, you recorded out in China Springs.
China
Out
Springs.
in Big Mouth. Where,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because
Ronnie's place.
that album
Yeah.
cover was taken in the backyard, I
yeah,
think.
yeah, that's right. The dog.
And Jake is the dog
The
that
dog
was...
that was there.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were we start writing, and Jeremy had a lot of ideas coming in, as did Jesse, and the diversity. You talk about the diversity. That's one of the things that was probably a double-edged sword for us, is we had so many influences and so many styles that we really enjoyed that we wanted to represent a lot of different styles on the record, and most records that sell kind of all go one way. There, everything sounds the same, and we really wanted to express on that record all the different styles that we were influenced by.
Yeah, because you had, some melodic numbers, rockers, ska
Absolutely.
influences.
Yeah,
and-
grunge. The first song is really grunge.
Yeah, real heavy. We got kind of some 311 sound stuff on
Yeah, yeah.
there.
And there's straight up pop stuff.
We were huge
Yeah.
Rage Against the Machine fans. We got some Black Crowes type stuff on there.
And then you did a version of Rainbow in the Dark, which is
I don't know. That's Ryan James Dio. I don't know how we.
decided to
I
swing
think we were
that.
just jacking around at rehearsal one time.
Yeah.
And because we had done a real hardcore Rage type version of Devil Went Down to Georgia. And then we wanted one more cover. And I think we probably said, what's the absolute farthest thing away from how Ronnie James Dio
Yeah.
did this?
You can't really do it heavier.
Yeah.
And it's hard to hit those notes that Ronnie's hitting, too.
Yeah, yeah. So,
Okay.
so I think Jeremy starts playing some jazz chords, and we're like, "Wow, could we swing that?" So we did that. But we had a great time recording it, and that was really fun. That
how long
really
were you in
was.
the studio to record that?
That was quick.
Was it really? Because it sounds.
He did a
Great mix.
It's the mix
know.
from 15 years ago at a little studio out in China Springs.
Yeah,
It sounds damn good.
It was all ADATs, I remember.
yeah. All
Yeah.
of that.
All
Yeah.
ADAT tapes.
And we did take it to Dallas to get it mastered, and we told him master it absolutely just the hottest that you can. And Jeremy, I don't even know if you remember this, but we did get put into a few of the jukeboxes around town, but we were in the jukebox at George's, and of course, besides Devil Went Down to Georgia was like the most requested. Whenever we played, people wanted to hear our heavy version of Devil Went Down to Georgia. Well, that CD was so hot, mixed and mastered so hot, literally 10 dB over anything else in the jukebox, that it would go from, Pat Green, George's Bar or something, Randy Rogers or something, to boom, just blowing into this version of Devil Went Down to Georgia. So it was already a different style of music, a real heavy version. So they ended up taking it out. Sammy took it out. He's like, I can't do that anymore. But customers are leaving because it's so damn loud over everything else. So yeah, we did a few things on that one that hurt us, but more so.
It's a country song.
Yeah, I
so-
pulled that album out last week because you had posted it. I was digging through my CDs.
Yeah,
I was
it's so
digging
sad.
through my CDs, and I found that CD, and I knew where it was.
Yeah.
So when you posted that, who has this album on? And I said I do. I took a picture of it and posted
Jeremy's
it on
not
there.
on Facebook, so I was doing a collage for the anniversary show, which we'll talk about, and I wanted a picture of the CD cover, and I don't even have one. So I was like, does anybody have
Yeah.
a copy of our CD? And of course, my mother did too, but a few of you guys did. Somebody had. I forget who, but I've even looked for it. There's some for sale on the internet, and I don't know who the hell's selling them.
We'll have to talk to David Zacek and get him to burn us some copies for the
Oh, yeah.
anniversary.
Exactly.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, we'll probably. I think we'll probably do about at least half that CD.
How many
at the
copies
show.
did you get made originally when you?
I think we were between 2,500 and 3,000, and
Wow.
we pretty much we sold, I'd say 95% of them.
Yeah,
None of us have any
I
left.
guess you gave me a CD. I don't even remember how I got it because I remember when I used to work at Fox 44.
Yeah,
We always went to the music store you worked out,
Yeah.
and me and Ray, and just killed a couple hours
yeah.
on work time. And
we did a little EP before that had 3 songs in it. It was called Suburban Starter Home, and that was influenced by one of our favorite movies, Raising Arizona.
Oh, yeah.
So
One
we,
of my favorite.
So we put the picture of the little
Turn to the right.
yeah,
Little Airstream on
little
there.
Airstream out in the middle of the Arizona desert. But yeah, man, that was a lot of fun. That
So,
was good.
Jeremy, did you leave? You left Sloppy Joe for a while? Did you move to Austin or somewhere?
I did, just off and on. I lived in Dallas for a while, and I lived in Houston, and I lived in Austin I had always broken off just to try different things and I did the country thing again, and an artist named Angela Peterson, and that was pretty cool because her manager was ZZ Top's manager, so I got to kind of see his office and see all their cool stuff, and we did some pretty big shows, and that was fun. It was a learning experience, but I've always come back to Waco, especially after I had my daughter, and we've always just gotten back into our thing, and it just feels like home.
And Brian was just waiting for you to come back, I guess.
Brian always kept it going with whoever. That's the thing with it. There's been countless lineup changes, but we've always kind of been the hub of it.
Sure, absolutely.
But he's always kept it going no matter what, you know.
So at what point did you decide to just, settle down and make Waco your home and make it go?
Basically, when 8 years ago when my daughter was born,
okay,
I decided to just come back here, and this is where family is, and we've got a good thing going here. We always have. We've got really the best thing going here as far as I'm concerned. So
yeah,
and that was always whether it was a friction or just a difference. I was so far ahead of them on the family thing. I already had kids, and they were young, single, full-time musicians.
Right. Asking him why aren't we gigging more?
Yeah.
This and that, and he's got
Yeah, I had a day job,
family
6 day a week day job, and 4 kids.
I get that now.
And they're like, we're playing 5 nights a week, but there's 7 nights in a week. What's the deal?
Yeah.
So we would kind of have those battles, and they were, like I said, they were wanting to play originals, and I didn't see enough time in a week for us to really do both. And we could have. We always could have done it, but it was just that much more time to put in. Because they would have, they would have days to work on the tunes. They would have a lot of more time to work on the stuff. And so we kind of got to a point, maybe a year or so after the record, where they were really, really wanting to pursue the originals thing, and I was comfortable where we were at, and so we just kind of said, well, we're all kind of burnt out. We're all kind of fighting like a old married couple.
Yeah.
So let's just split up.
Jesse and I kind of went to Dallas and kind of did our thing and tried some different bands up there,
And for me, I'd always wanted to play with a horn section, a full horn section. So at that point I was like, well, here's a good reforming point. Let's put in some horns. Let's try some different stuff, and that was fun. That worked for a while.
Yeah, we have some great video of you guys at Bosque River Stage.
Yeah,
with,
we had
3-piece horn section.
Yeah,
and man, it sounds
that was good times.
Really good,
and that was fun for a while. But you know what killed that? And it was great timing. So 9/11 happens in 2001, right?
2001.
Yeah,
and everything shuts down. People aren't in the mood to party. People aren't in the mood to spend money. Your 8-piece, 8-piece band, that's not happening anymore. We might book a band on the weekend, but it just needs to be something small and cheap because nobody's in the. I mean, remember the funk we were in for at least a year or two.
Yeah.
And so, kind of had to not cut them loose, but tell the horns, hey guys, there's not a lot of work for you. So I kept one horn, kept our sax player because it was that to me that was the most versatile horn in the group. And then at that time, started picking up some gigs with a show band in Austin that was forming, and with a different guitar player, an old friend of my first bass player I ever played with, Johnny Shane, just by pure chance, and couldn't really find the right guitar player, and had a gig coming up. We absolutely had no guitar player, and Jeremy and I had been talking, but we weren't as in day-to-day conversation like we had.
At that time, I was in a band called Deeger in Austin, which was
great,
an original rock, kind of Incubus sounding.
Incubus Hoobastank, kind of great sounding band. But they weren't gigging that much either.
And they weren't making any money, that's for sure.
So I says, hey, why don't you come play this gig with us, man? It's easy money, it's good money, it's corporate stuff. So he comes in, and none of the other guys in the band had played with Jeremy. Of course, I had. And they're all looking at me like, the hottest girlfriend in the room, They're like, yeah. And I'm like, told you, I'll work on him, So Jeremy's like, oh, hell yeah, let's just do this.
Well, this is Johnny Big and Cecilio. Who's
it was a tremendous
awesome musicians. I was like, wow, these guys are way better than the guys I'm playing with.
Yeah. So sick harmonies, 5 singers in the band. It was just ridiculous.
Yeah, everyone sang. It was great.
Well, tribute bands are pretty popular these days, whether Zeppelin, Tom Petty, Beatles. Seems to be an audience for that, I'm not sure why, but it's popular now as it's ever been. You guys are the shit when it really comes to this. You know, I've seen the Beatles. I mean, I've seen the Eagles and the Ozzy shows up here at Cinema, and I gotta say, you nail it.
Thanks,
and it was great, Jeremy. How much time you got to spend getting down those Randy Rhoads and Don Felder, Joe Walsh?
Well,
I have. Yeah, that's a.
I was telling Brian overall we rarely take a break, but it's always at the end of the year between Christmas and New Year's, and before we really don't pick up in January till mid-January usually. I didn't even look at my guitar after the past year because all the Randy Rhoads stuff, all the homework we had to do, and all the rehearsals, and I was just burnt out. It was a lot of fun, but man, it was
just sensory overload.
I'd never done
serious
anything like
woodshedding right there, huh?
I mean, you nailed every note.
Oh, dude.
And then I had to get up there and play the guitar, and I'm like, what the hell am I doing up here?
You did great, by the way. That was a blast, man.
But really, the other guys that we had together, Jay and Sammy and all of them kicked ass too. I didn't have to learn it all. Those guys. Yeah. Those guys took their share of it too. So.
Are you going to do any more tribute top shows?
We are. I think we're gonna. The tough part of that is the Eagles. I knew was going to go well. I just knew it because that's such a broad base.
Blizzard of Oz. I know, and you're like me. I mean, those albums.
Those
Blizzard and Diary. I know them back to back.
Yeah, I mean, but there's kind of a small audience for the love of that music.
Sure. And so that was a not the band guilty pleasure of mine. I've always wanted to perform a lot of songs off those two records, and then
it was cool how you guys did them sequentially,
start to finish.
And that was great.
I came at
you knew what you were going to hear, and it's like, here comes Goodbye to Romance.
Exactly.
Let's see if he's going to nail
it.
And you did.
Oh yeah, that was probably one of my
take the time
songs.
to turn the tape over. And
yeah.
Start the second side.
Well, that's always been two of my favorite records of all time, and I was a huge Randy Rhoads fan. And I posed it to these guys. I said, "Look, I got a crazy idea. I want to do an Ozzy tribute. We're in. Hold on. Not only do I want to do an Ozzy tribute, I want to do the first two records, start to finish, in their entirety, and then fill it in with the hits later on." And they said, sure. And then they go home and listen to it and go, Jesus Christ, this guy's out of his fucking mind. And for me, literally, I could have done the show that night because I've listened to those tapes until they were squealing and the little cotton swab thing was falling out and you're having to put paper in. I mean, I've had those tapes and CDs over and over, so I knew every damn song just about. But I really did, and I appreciate these guys so much. Put so much on them, man. They do. Between the Eagles show and the Ozzy show, and for Jeremy especially, that's a lot of damn notes to retain.
Yeah. The musician,
the Eagles stuff, the harmonies were a big
yes,
thing.
Yes.
The musicians. I mean, all you guys are just so great. And I get up there, and we're going to do what? What do we play? Fairies Were Booze.
One of my favorites.
I wanted to play a Black Sabbath song. I love Black Sabbath more than anything. So I get up there, rehearsal earlier that day, and I play it totally different than anybody else. And I'm like, well, you guys change to me because I can't change to you. You guys are the professionals. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I guess I've been playing it wrong for 20 years.
Well,
and y'all jumped right in, and man, it sounded really good, man. And I had a lot of fun.
Well, after the interesting harmonica situation, you weren't that much of a problem, Troy.
Yeah, he's playing whatever he wants. So
well, when you're doing these different styles, Brian, I mean, it's got to present some challenges. I mean, are you tuning down, or you just have Pat Benatar pipes?
Well, that's the other thing is that another project we haven't talked about is Chimeromancer, and honestly, that is as a whole guilty pleasure. That's our we're going to play these songs because we love them. We may play to 9 people. We may make $4 a piece, if anything, but that's our fun band. I was surprised that I could hit some of those notes still to this day. But after that, bro, the Eagles thing was a cakewalk. The Ozzy thing was tough. I'm doing a Sinatra tribute in a couple of weeks. That's super simple. when
who else is playing with you?
And the Sinatra thing, it's a
Rat Pack thing, right?
Yeah, Rat Pack deal. That's me and Chris Lowe, local musician Chris Lowe, and then Bruce Carbonell, great.
Oh, I've seen Bruce
he's a monster.
over at
Rosati's probably.
Or actually, I saw him at
Wise
the old submarine shop over there off of.
Wise Guys.
Yeah, Wise Guys.
Yeah.
Oh,
He's got a Rat Pack show, and I approached him a while back to give these guys a break. I've got a million tribute ideas in my brain that I think would work, but to ask these guys to play on everyone, we did a country tribute not too long ago, classic country tribute, and I told them I'll always present them to you guys, but don't feel like you have to say yes, because I'd rather save you for the ones that I really want you on.
So how are you going to fill in for the Nelson Riddle Orchestra when you're doing all that Sinatra?
Well, Bruce is from Chicago.
Yes.
And he has some monster connections in that he has an original CBS orchestra recordings, the Count Basie Orchestra, CBS recordings of a lot of those tunes, probably 90% of those songs that we do. So he has the true studio tracks that we sing along with. So yeah, we are singing with tracks, but I mean it's legit. It's not.
When he did his thing at Wise Guys, it's kind of like karaoke, but he's really just selling the show.
Yeah,
I mean, he does a great carrying job the whole thing. It's almost like a background track at that point because
it's not cheesy MIDI sound.
No.
Yeah,
it's really
exactly,
good,
exactly. And he's got good equipment, and it sounds good. And that there's very few things that could work like that, but that's definitely one that could work. I mean, because I think, and sometimes they even did it like that. I think they did play with some tracks at times. But we put it together as a Valentine's show. We did it last year, shortly after Valentine's, but we put together this year as a Valentine's show. And then what that allows is, just like anything else. I mean, even if you had steak dinner every night, you would want some chicken every once in a while. And, me and Jeremy play together all the time, and I love Jeremy, and I really don't like playing with anybody else. But it gives us an opportunity. On Valentine's night, he's got a cousin, female cousin that is a phenomenal singer. And they've done some stuff together, obviously, over the years. And so that's an opportunity for Jeremy that night to do a Valentine's show with a different. He's playing at the Grape that night.
Okay.
And
Jeremy
check
and
that
Amy.
out.
Yeah.
Jeremy and Amy, yeah.
That's my neck of the woods.
Right on. So we get to do that stuff too. But that's one of the reasons that we have so many projects and side projects is so we don't get bored. We did our acoustic thing for a year or two and went, we got to get off our ass. This is boring.
Right.
And then we go play full band 5 nights a week and go, I don't miss those acoustic gigs. So it really gives us an opportunity to, between Sloppy Joe, Brian Jeremy acoustic duo, Camaromancer, Eagles tribute, Ozzy tribute, and any other things that we come up with.
When you want to do a Black Sabbath tribute band, I will shave a mustache on my face.
You will cut.
I will be
You will cut the
toenail.
tips of your fingers off just a
I
minute.
remember, I remember seeing you guys at the Country Tavern years ago.
Yeah.
We always
Spring Valley
played
Country
there.
Tavern.
COD, yeah,
That was
man.
a good time.
That was.
So this year's 20 years Sloppy Joe's been together.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have some big some news? You got some stuff going on with that?
Yeah, we do. We did a 10-year anniversary, and that was like, wow, we've been together 10 years. And you don't. I mean, who knows how long a band's going to be together? And this is a core. I mean, this cat is my brother, literally from another mother.
You're like the Paul Stanley and Gene Simmons of Wake Up.
No, watch it. No, I think we're more incredible than those guys. It's way more about the music.
Or maybe the Alex Lifeson and Getty Lee.
There you go. We'll take that one.
Yeah, I like that one.
But
Robert Plant and Jimmy Page. There you go.
Now they don't play together.
But we've had a lot of line changes over the years. We've had a lot of different stylistically. We've done stuff. You got to think that we went from polyester and 70s and 80s music to really broad range when we evolved out of that. We did a lot of Rage, we did a lot of 311, we did a lot of the 90s stuff, Dishwalla, we did some Alice in Chains. To when we got in the corporate scene, then you got to go learn a bunch of standards, which is fun and cool. So you do all your old cool standards and stuff. So we have well over 300 songs that we can pull from in pretty much any style. We're not scared of much. I mean, it may sound arrogant, but we've been in every situation.
I've seen you guys play, also, at the river. Before I knew you, I went down there, and I think I was at a party one time, and you guys were the house band. It was one of those corporate gigs or like the fundraiser type shows here in Waco we have. And you get the band, you get the audience up shaking their booty, and you guys know how to work a crowd.
Sure.
You're not going up there with your ego saying this is what we're going to play.
Yeah.
You kind of get a sense for what do we got to do for the room to really make it a
we're
fun
here
time.
for y'all.
That's why we
for
don't
us.
use set lists. Haven't really ever.
We haven't used a set list in probably 15 of those 20
kinda
years.
go
Do you guys even practice anymore? When the Sloppy Joe stuff, especially, do you guys even practice, or do you just go up there? You know the stuff so good, you just go up there and play it.
I'd be lying if I say we practice very often. If we go through a run where he and I are playing a lot, and we don't have because we've put ourselves now in a market where Sloppy Joe pretty much plays corporate, weddings, festivals, private functions, and then here at my club, and maybe one or two other places, but very rarely. And that reason is so you can put yourself at the price point that you want, because you know as well as I do. You quote somebody a wedding price, and they say, "Well, I saw you at Jim's dirty backyard bar last night. I know they didn't pay you that much."
Right.
And you go, "Damn, you were there." so you keep that one. That's our money band. I mean, being honest. And so if we go a couple of weeks or a week or two, whatever, and we haven't played as a band, I'm sure we get together and we go, "Hey, let's go through anything." It might be a rough spot. But we, when we're hard and heavy, we're like a baseball team. If you're playing 5 games a week, you don't need to practice because you need the day off. You're working the songs.
Gigging is the best practice.
Toughest thing for us probably with the set list being in my head is he'll go, "Man, we haven't played this song in 2 months. Oh wow, I forgot." I keep forgetting to bring that one back to the front of the Rolodex.
Yeah.
So we'll go back and look at the song list or revisit.
Well, hey, Brian, this nightclub here, Cinema, which I believe you have a piece of, right?
Yeah, I've got a big piece of it. Yes, sir.
All right. Well, you guys have booked some great artists. I've been here for, the LA Gun Show, which was...
That was great.
That was great.
That was great.
Monty Montgomery.
Yeah.
That was great. Baby Atlas.
Yeah.
I love those guys. As well as, tons of local bands, as well as your band.
Sure.
What can we look forward to here in the next few months?
Well, here's
Whet
the
our
thing.
appetite a little
Here's
bit.
the thing, and not to offend anyone, but I'm just being honest. We live in Waco, Texas, and we are all musicians and music supporters in Waco, Texas. And what we feel should knock people's socks off, a lot of times the average Wacoan might go, "Yeah, anyway, let's go to this place and have a big O that we do every day." So there's a lot of creatures of habit in this town. There's a lot of I'll say lack of culture or fear of culture in this town. A fear of change, a fear of going to see if you like, you might accidentally like something if you'll see it. So as the entertainment director here, my first intention was, okay, we got some great local music. Let's blend great local music with great regional music and then some national acts that we can afford to bring in. And Baby Atlas is a great example, a prime example.
Those guys blew me away. I've never seen
phenomenal
them before.
3-piece out of Austin, Texas. Berkeley grads, all 3.
The Superhero Band was pretty badass.
Super Band is another
Super
one.
Band. It was just
You
like
bring them
really
in and they kill it for 13 people
Yeah.
because people don't know the name and aren't going to go. If you brought in another band that plays, around or whatever and has a big following and people see them every week, they still just bring a good crowd, a huge crowd. It just amazes me. Creatures of habit. So that being said, I'm still going to keep plugging along. I'm still going to bring in.
Please do, because
I'm working on Great White right now. I'm working on bringing in Great White. I'm working on
no fireworks
without
I
the
hope.
pyro.
no pyro whatsoever. Spray everything down with water before they get
There's
here.
several exits in this place too.
Yeah, no kidding. Working on maybe Trickster. Working on maybe.
Are they still 18?
They are
29.
up there now.
Okay.
They're up there. They are hipsters now. Artificial hipsters.
That's me.
That's Jeremy. But anyway, man, so I'm still working on some stuff. And definitely the regional guys that we all dig. The Ian Moores, Monty Montgomery's, Malcolm Milligans. I try to bring in some stuff that people,
I
have
saw
and
Malcolm
have
here
heard.
too, yeah.
Great show.
Oh man, I missed that show.
But I'm also going to do I've got a burlesque show coming probably in the fall. We're going to do some different stuff. We'll be doing some more tributes. I think we're going to do a Seattle grunge tribute because, none of us guys are spring chickens, and old school music to us is 70s and 80s. But you mention that to a kid nowadays, and they go, "You mean old school, like
Classic
NSYNC?"
rock.
You know, that's classic rock is in sync now. For God's sake. So a lot of that nice stuff, which I really dug. I was a huge fan of Alice in Chains. Jeremy was too, and
Me too.
Soundgarden.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we'll bring in some of that, some more of the tributes. We'll continue to have our good circulation of our local musicians, and then I'll continually try to bring in some national acts. We've got Alex Raimundo, which is a national touring comedian who's been on Comedy Central and HBO. He's coming in a couple of weeks. So we keep trying to splash those in, but we always try to keep that ticket price, 15, 20, 25 tops, because that's simply what you're going to top out paying here. And, I always get requests, hey, man, you guys need to bring in, Bon Jovi. We're 300 capacity, 250 comfortably. So you do the math. 250 at a $20 ticket, you don't have a whole lot of headroom there for a $20,000, $30,000 act.
Yeah. So you didn't have a lot of cash in the till left over after, say, a L.A. Guns show?
L.A. Guns, no. We fed them pizza instead of filet mignon. They were, they took everything we had. But
they were great guys. They're real cool. And,
group of guys.
Yeah, they jammed, man.
Yeah, I was totally blown away.
I bought
Speaking of Fairies Wear Boots, those guys killed it.
Yeah, they did a great version of Fairies Wear Boots.
Yes, they did.
It was very cool.
Yeah, I actually bought their album on iTunes right before they came down, so I could get the songs back in my head.
We were talking about meanwhile. You're talking about an old guy that can still hit the notes. He was killing it.
Yeah.
And Kip Winger, I'll tell you what, man.
I heard he was good. Yeah.
Did Robin go to that show?
I don't know.
He came in solo acoustic and told me when he got here. He goes, "This is not horse with no name bullshit." He goes, "This is a rock show." I'm like, "Well, you've got an Ovation guitar and a microphone." He said, "I'm telling you." He told me how he wanted to EQ down to the kilohertz, and we got a sound that he wanted, and he really put on a hell of a show. But very humble, very inclusive of the audience. He got a couple of local guys up to sing with him, and it was like one of us playing here.
Speaking of sound, you guys have your own sound system, which makes it great for especially small time bands to come in and set up, because that's always the hard part. Sure. when you have a your little local band coming in, you got to set up your own PA system, or you don't have a PA system.
When we put this together, this place was a shithole when we got here.
Yeah.
And we got it, and I feel we've done a good job making it nice. But one of the things that I've done here is I said, when I go to a club, what would I love to see? I'd love to see a house system. I'd love to see a very easy load in with a ramp and a door right by the stage. I'd love to see lights, especially for traveling bands. A house drum kit is always a plus. So I went out and found a real nice kit in Austin, a good deal on it. Got a house bass rig. So essentially it's a plug and play. We don't make the bands play 4 hours. A lot of places you got to play 4 hours, and that's a beating, man.
That's what's great about
to watch and a beating to
especially
play.
if you're an original band, because a lot of people don't have that much material.
That's what's great about having a musician as an owner of a bar or club, because they know what the musicians want and what they need when they come in.
Well, that's another double-edged sword. Hey, man, how come you don't let us play there?
Yeah.
It still comes down to money, and I got to have butts in the seats. I got to sell beer.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times I'll run into that. Well, hey, man, we'd love to play there. I'd love for you to play here too, but you're following us 7.
Yeah.
That's your mom, your dad, your brother.
When me and Dave start our band, though,
we'll get you in here. We'll give you any Monday between the hours of 4 and 7 that you want.
That's fine. We don't care. We play in the shed to ourselves.
And have a hell of a time.
That's
Along
what you forget about.
Along with a 1980s iPod. So we have a good time. So.
Well, they haven't been around that long. But I've got like a second-gen iPod that's basically the battery shot in it, but I just keep the power cord in. Plug it in their jam box and random it. And then we just, whatever pops up, we start rocking to. Yeah. And then there's a fridge right there, and there's an amp over here.
And a barbecue pit out there. And we just have a great time.
You'll have to come over sometime, both you guys. And
that'd be cool.
I'll feed you if you sing and play guitar.
We got a pool. Got a pool, man.
Oh, yeah.
Man, we're set.
Right on, dude.
So, hey, let's close out the show. We closing out the show. We got some more questions for these guys.
I don't know. You guys got anything?
You guys got a gig tonight, so.
Yeah, we always got a gig.
Always got a gig.
We're at the old used to be CNR. Now it's Rumors. We're over there tonight.
I'm sure by the time this airs, it'll probably be a different name.
Yeah, we just got a new bass player in the band, and real excited because he plays upright as well as regular electric bass. So that's been a neat Addition.
Yeah.
We did
Yeah.
our first trio gig with him the other night with the Upright, and I almost forgot to sing because I was just really vibing on the sound
Yeah.
and watching him and thinking, "Oh, I'm supposed to be covering
It's
this."
cool when you take, like a grunge song or something. You do it acoustically and you add an upright to it. It adds this whole weird dimension to it that makes
Yeah.
it.
Matter of fact, we did War Pigs the other night
Really?
Yeah, we did that too. Just
with the
song-
Upright.
Acoustic,
Acoustic and upright.
it
Yeah,
makes it fresh.
yeah, it was.
cool.
It was. And then tomorrow we're doing the Barnett's is reopening downtown.
Yeah, I heard about it. I'm so glad because I like that place and
Craft beers and
good scotch and I was sad when I heard it was going to close, but I was happy to hear it's going to be back open. I'll come down
check
and
it out,
you
man. We're down there 8 to 10
Yeah.
tomorrow. That's going to be good times.
So the 20th year anniversary, are you going to play some songs off that album you did in 2000?
I think so. I think what we'll probably do is we'll probably put that thing together and go in chronological order of lineup. And so we'll do a lot of disco in the 80s and stuff with the initial members, and then we'll go into
Do the whole album back to back, front to back?
Man, I don't know that we'll do that. I love that record, but I'm not going to say it was a Blizzard of Oz or a Diary of a
Right,
Madman.
right.
It's pretty close, man. Pretty
so-
close.
First attempt at it.
Well, there is a song on that album, "She," that I think you guys play quite a bit because it seems like I've heard it. I put it in the CD
That's the most
player.
requested.
Yeah,
That's a great song. I heard it and I thought, well, this isn't their song. It's really a good song.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
but would you guys mind closing the show out and singing that song for
Sure,
us?
sure,
All
absolutely.
right, cool.
It's called She. It's about nobody in particular. As she moves slowly across the floor, I don't see how I can love her anymore. I wake up next to her and it makes me smile. And then I say, won't you please stay a while? Because she means more to me than anyone could ever know. And if you happen to see her, won't you please tell her so? And she shows me things I could never find. That's why she's always in my mind. I stare at pictures from before. She asks for nothing, but I know that she needs more. And is there someone else that I should try to be? Or is it someone that's not me? Say, she means more to me than anyone could ever know. If you happen to see her, won't you please tell her so? And she shows me things I can never find. That's why she's always in my mind. She walks slowly towards the door. It's then I realize I won't see her anymore. 'Cause things just ain't the same as I thought they'd always be. And now I'm alone remembering she said she means more to me than anyone could ever know. Oh, if you happen to see her, won't you please tell her so? And she shows me things I can never find. That's why she's always in my mind. And she means more to me than anyone could ever know.
If you happen to see her, tell her I never meant to let her go. She shows me things I can never find. That's why she stay here in my mind. In my mind. In my mind. Thank you, man. Thanks, guys.
Brian Brown and Jeremy Moore of Sloppy Joe. Thank you guys for being on the shed today.
Enjoyed
Thank
it, man.
you.
Thank y'all for having us.